Good morning and welcome to the Ladybug Laboratory podcast. My name is Lily and I will be your host for today. This is a podcast all about knitting and crafting and various other creative pursuits that I find myself in during my life. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. It is such a delight. So, to start off with today, you can find me on Instagram as ladybug.lily, or on Ravelry as ladybuglily, and we do have a Ravelry podcast group called the Ladybug Laboratory Podcast, and that's where you can find all the show notes, and any giveaways or knit-alongs that we're doing, as well as an introductions thread, go introduce yourself, and a questions thread. Today we're going to have some works in progress, finished objects, miscellaneous other crafting, a little bit of mail call, knit-alongs, and then prattle. And to start with today, I just want to give a shout out to the Color and Life podcast hosted by Jennifer and John Michael. And Jennifer, if you don't remember, she's Junit on Ravelry, and she's the one that won our 200 subscriber giveaway prize. And I found out that she has a podcast and they're hysterical. And their most recent podcast talked a lot about gift crafting and what their thoughts are on that. And especially after the last podcast that I put out, I really found it helpful and informative and thought-provoking. So, on that note, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so for works in progress today, I have a lot. This is kind of whip central up in over here. To start with, I've got my grandfather Dutchman socks. Those are living in my Mama Made Waffles project bag. And I'm using Telltale Yarn Company Sailor Sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend. And last time that you saw these, I had finished the boat. Here we go. Finished the boat, and I had been starting on the sock. I was about here. And so I finished the sock, and I talked about how I'm not sure about the length. I will have my friend try it on, but I decided to go ahead and finish the two socks because if I need to pull back the toe and make it longer or shorter, that's not the end of the world, and I didn't want to wait until I saw him, which as it turns out isn't going to be until December. Oh, by the way, today is Saturday, November 19th, 2016. So I went ahead and I started the second sock. You can see the very beginning of the sail, and these are on Addy Sock Rocket Turbos on 2.75 millimeter needles. The two colors are Oyster, which is the gray, and Bulkhead Blue? Yeah, Bulkhead Blues, which is the blue. So that is my first work in progress, nice and quick. I'm hoping to have the second sock done by the end of November. I'm going to pause for a second and I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I got the notification from my phone that I had to plug it in. So, we're still going on. The second work in progress that I have are the Ravelry Fest socks. And these are old. Long-term viewers may remember when I finished the first sock. I forgot my sock blocker, so I'm just going to have to put my hand in it. But it's got this cable going down the side, and it's long and skinny. This is for my husband. This is knit out of Knit Picks Stroll Brights in the Ravelry colorway, which is a 75/25 superwash merino. It's also knit on 2.75 millimeter sock needles, although right now it's sitting on some size 1s, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I have started the second sock. This is definitely a languishing whip. Now, I will say I have never had second sock syndrome. I just often set something aside for a very long time before I do it again, but I don't think I've ever gone more than 3 or 4 months without doing the second sock. This might have been the longest that I went because I did the first sock in June. Late June, early July, so that I would have it while my husband was away and while I was away in different places, so I could work on the second sock and know that it would fit him, because this one I tried on, the second sock I didn't. And of course I didn't get to it while I was away, and by then I'd already started other projects, and long story short, Christmas is coming up and I went to finish it, so I guess that's probably about 4 or 5 months. That's the longest that I've ever gone without finishing a second sock. So you will see those done. Again, I'm hoping that those will be done by the end of November. They are very quick on the needles, so I'm hopeful. The third work in progress is living in my, oh, I forgot to say, this one is just living in a little Netflix bag. It's just a drawstring that my husband got as a giveaway somewhere, and he was like, I know you use little bags, do you want it? And it's actually pretty perfectly sized for a sock project. It's a little bit smaller than most sock project bags, but it works. The third work in progress for today is another one that if you are a long-term viewer, you will remember, and that is my amethyst diamond socks that I'm making for my brother for Christmas. Now they are color work at the top and at the toe. Last time that you saw this, I had finished the color work on the second sock, and I had gotten down to, let's see, where is this clipped? It's clipped right here, okay? Like literally right below the color work. And this is the rose quartz gem that I got from Eva Christie, which is just beautiful. It actually kind of blends in here, but it's gorgeous. So I threw a clip on it, and I'm using it as a progress keeper. So I finished that, and I got through the heel flap turn, and my plan is to have this mostly ready, so it's basically I'm working on the gusset, and the idea is I'm gonna go to visit family over Thanksgiving, and I thought it would be nice to have something a little bit more vanilla to work on. And this is basically vanilla with some ribbing all the way until the toe. So I'll bring the yarns for the toe, but mostly I'll be working on the ribbing portion. I'm also hoping to get the cuff of the Grandfather Dutchman socks done before I leave as well, so that I can work on the vanilla portion past the heel on those. All right. Oh, and while I'm at it, this is living in my Lone Larch project bag. And a little something that isn't really an acquisition, but it's in the project bag, and I've wanted to show it for a while. Is this. It's a little ladybug on a keychain. Very cute. But it has this lever on the back. You push it, and it turns into little ladybug scissors. Makes me so happy. I hope you can see that. The lighting's not the greatest in here. Yeah, so this has sort of been following me around in all of my project bags. And since this one is very vanilla and it's only one skein, it's been in here for when I go to the doctor's office. Okay, we're still not done. Next work in progress is a new work in progress. So all three of the ones that I just showed you were second socks that I cast on in the past 2 weeks. Now this one is for the Podcaster Festive Sock Swap, which is hosted by Eva Christie of the Eva Christie Hand Knitting podcast. And basically the way that it works is I'm knitting a pair of socks for someone else. They don't know that I'm knitting for them. Well, they know somebody's knitting for them. They don't know it's me. And somebody, I don't know who, is knitting for me. And this is all tangled up. I'm so sorry I'm not looking at the camera. It's just because it's tangled. Bad podcasting right here. Sorry. Oh my gosh. So, I'm trying a couple of new techniques on this project. So first of all, this is knit with Miss Babs Yowza in the Russet colorway. You might remember this from my Sontag. Yes, that is the leftovers from the Sontag. / bosom buddy, if you're my mother-in-law. She loved it, by the way. I'll try and put a picture in here of her reaction to it. She loved it. She's so happy with it, and she's just thrilled, and she understands how much work went into it, so it was definitely worthwhile in the end. So then the other yarn is the Swan's Island Natural Dyed Merino Worsted. It's very soft. It's 100% wool, and this one is dyed with indigo, and it's dyed in a 1700s farmhouse in Maine with, you know, old techniques. Now, you will notice that there are two ends coming out of this. That is because I decided to try and knit these 2 at a time. This is my first ever 2 at a time sock, and the ends are getting so tangled up. And I mean, I didn't separate the ball into 2 cakes because I wanted to keep all the leftovers together, but I'm now understanding why people do that because this is ridiculous. Anyway, so these are my socks. I'm really happy with them so far. They've got these cable details in the center, and then they've got some more cables on the sides. I'm sorry that it's so dark. This is basically the lightest that it's going to be. It's the middle of the day, the sun's shining straight through the window. It's just cloudy out. But yeah, I really like these. I will say I'm not sure how I'm feeling about the whole 2 at a time thing. It's the first time that I've tried this, and it just feels like it's going so slowly. I decided to go ahead and try it because knitting on these size needles, these are US size 5, 3.75 millimeters. I just was using my interchangeable set, and I just had a long cable free, and I was like, well, I mean, if I'm going to do magic loop anyway, I might as well try 2 at a time. And I am enjoying the 2 at a time aspect of it. It's a little bit hard to get used to because you do the same thing. It takes you twice as long. It doesn't actually, but finishing a repeat takes twice as long. Going through the row, you do it twice. And, you know, I always think I do the patterning row across here, and then I go across the back, and then I get back here, and in my head, I've knit the front twice, so I should be at the next pattern row now, and I'm not. I'm on my plain row in between. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I really like the results. They're very, very soft. Like, I thought Miss Babs Yowza was soft. It's one of the softest worsted weights I've ever used, but this is just incredibly soft. And look just how beautiful those stitches just go together. Let's see, the light is not that great, but oh, it's gorgeous. So I'm really happy with these. These might stay with me instead of going to my swap partner. No, I'm kidding. They'll go off. But this is the Honeymoon Socks pattern on Ravelry. It's a free pattern. It is not charted. It's written out in somewhat of a confusing manner, and several of the instructions for cable notations are actually wrong. So it took me a while to figure out the pattern and get used to it and whatnot. But I'm getting the hang of the repeats now, and I'm really enjoying working on those. I'm not sure when they'll be done. I'm not going to fool myself and say that they'll be done by the end of November like all my other socks over there. But yeah, probably sometime in December they'll be done. And I hope my podcaster likes them. Okay, 2 more works in progress because I have 6 works in progress today. Boy. So this next one is the one that you've all been waiting for. And that is my monster of a project, the Plum Frost cardigan. This is knit with Miss Babs' Yummy 2-ply, which is 100% superwash merino. The body is in the stonewashed colorway with miscellaneous other colors for the color work. And it's huge! You guys! It's mostly done! Look at this. It's massive. I love it. I'm so happy with it. So I had just started the color work when I spoke to you guys last. I was like right at the top of this sort of bar on the bottom. And now, there we go. It's not blocked yet, but there's the color work. I love it. I love it. So I can actually like put this on and wear it, which I did when I first finished the collar. Now it's of course huge on me, but it's comfy. I really like it. I might just have to make myself one that's this big because it's so comfy. Not gonna happen, but I really like this. Now, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that I have not steeked this yet. That is the major thing that I still need to do, is to steek it and put on the button bands and the buttons. So this is my steek section in the front. If you've ever done steeked color work before, you know how this goes. There's a non-pattern section in the middle. Now this is a superwash yarn, and often when you do color work, you'll spit splice your ends together so that they just go seamlessly. But since this is not a superwash, or it is a superwash yarn, come here. He wants to come up, but he's scared of all the knitting. Oh well. Come on. There we go. Here's my kitty. Here, I'll make room for you. So, since this is a non-superwash yarn, I couldn't spit splice the ends. And the color change was right in the pattern, was right before the steek. So all my colors change right here. The problem is that if I cut down the middle of the steek, that edge there is where I'm supposed to pick up for my button band. So I don't really know how I'm gonna do that. I'm thinking maybe I'll just have to weave the ends in and like double stitch the stitches in the steek band. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. But the next step is just to steek and do the button bands, which I am hoping to do sometime this weekend because I want to just have a day where I just do that. I don't have to worry about anything else. I sit down in some good light with some tea and I relax and I do that. So I finished up the color work and then I decreased and did the collar. I'm really happy with it. This is just living in a tote bag because it's massive at this point. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with it, you guys. I know she's gonna love it. She's gonna love it. So, oh, and if you've ever steeked before, do you steek before or after blocking? Inquiring minds need to know. So my last work in progress for today is my blanket. And I actually have some questions for you guys on this blanket. So number one, here's what I've done so far. Last time I had made both the sort of blue and purple square here and the gray with red square here as standalone squares. And so from there out I made this one, which is like almost like a camo green, and it's linen, I believe. And that one was from Carolyn. And then I made this one, which was golden butter. And as you'll notice, this one is like an edge square. Let's see. So if I hold it sideways, that's the edge, okay? I have a question for you. So I thought about making the edge of the blanket raggedy, like the bottom is all bumpy, and make the sides bumpy, and that's one option. But I think I'm gonna square it off, and I can't decide if I want to square it off like this, with like half squares of color, like that, almost, or if I want to make these black, like the edging here. I can't decide. And I'm going to record tutorials for doing both the raggedy edge as well as for squaring it off. And then this just ends up being more and more tutorials. And then I'll do a tutorial for if you decide to square it off, squaring off the bottom and the top, as well as the edging. But yeah, so if you guys have any thoughts on that, I really can't decide if I want to do it half squares in like a color or if I just want to do it black. We'll see. So then, after I did that one, I did Dusty Orange, which is right here, and then Forest Green, and both of those are also from Carolyn. And I started this one, and I don't remember what it's called, but it is from, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I will put it in the down bar. I can see her face. I will put it in the down bar. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. As you'll probably notice, I'm sort of starting another section, and at some point this is going to be connected with the other section of my blanket. That is living in my Studio in the Green project bag with adorable kitties that I love. And that is finally all of my works in progress. So we're going to move on to finished objects and other crafting goodness. So I forgot to tell you guys about my tea today. I'm drinking hot apple cider tea from that same tin that I was using last time. In my brand new mug that I literally got this morning at Joann's. And it says, let's see, you cannot see that. Oh well, I'll read it to you in a second. And then on the back, it's got a yarn ball with knitting needles in it. And it says procrastinating. A verb, to defer all other activities besides knitting. So I'm really happy with it. I like it. It was 50% off. So there you go. And I'm also burning an Origold Peach candle back here just because candles make me happy. So, finished objects today. This first finished object was a test knit, and I haven't heard back from the designer if I can talk about it on the podcast yet, so I might be cutting this section out. If so, you will find out, obviously. But, if not, here it is! And the lighting is still terrible, so I don't know if you're even going to be able to see this. I'll try and give the lighting, but it is a cabled hat. It's got these sort of diamond cables, and then this sort of woven cable, and it just repeats the two all the way around. This is made out of Aran weight yarn. The pattern does call for worsted, but I know that my gauge is tiny. Like, I always have to go up at least 2 needle sizes on most projects, about 2 needle sizes. And since it was a test knit, I really wanted to get the right gauge and be accurate. So I used Aran weight yarn, but I used the needles in the project. And that way I thought I could give the designer a little bit better, more accurate information. The designer is Rachel of the Arbor Twist podcast and the Arbor Twist Etsy shop with the most beautiful yarns ever. And I seriously think I'm going to buy one of her yarns soon. It's just so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I think she called it Tinsel Twinkle. I'll put it in the down bar. But it's her Christmas yarn, and it's gorgeous, and I want it so badly. But, so this hat I made for myself. This is made from Louette Riverstone yarn in the Caribou colorway. It is 100% wool. It's not superwash or anything. And this is like deep stash. Like, I've had this since 2012, I think. So, you probably can't see it because of the light. But I'll put a picture in here if I can. But yeah, it's like a beanie. It fits pretty snugly on my head. I can pull it down on the sides to cover my ears, which I really appreciate. And it's clearly way too warm for me to wear an Aran weight hat here. But when I go back for the winter, I will be able to wear it then. And yeah, I mean, I don't look the greatest in hats, but I like it. And it's comfy and warm. And my hair's a mess now. So that is my one finished object for this week. I have 6 works in progress and 1 finished object. But I also have a couple of other finished objects in other crafts. So first of all, sewing. I have cousins. So this summer when I went on my family vacation, which I talked about in a previous episode, I'll put the episode number here, I met up with my cousins, and my younger cousin had learned how to knit, gosh, maybe a decade ago when he was like in first or second grade. Because he went to like a Montessori type of school. And he hadn't done it since then. And then I have two younger cousins from like a different cousin branch that had not learned how to knit, but they were both fascinated when I was knitting. And so we found like little plastic paintbrushes, and I taught them how to knit with just scrap yarn that I had. And apparently on the way home, the two younger cousins, their mom sent a picture, the two of them in the back seat with knitting needles and yarn, because they stopped at Joann's on the way home and got them just some knitting needles and yarn. And they were just sitting there silently in the back seat knitting, and it was really cool to see. And I love my cousins very much. It was really nice to be able to spread that to them. So for Christmas this year, I'm giving them, I have 9 pairs of knitting needles that I know I will never use. They are plastic that I got for 50 cents a piece at the thrift store when I was first learning to knit. And many of them are in all the same sizes. So I'm giving them each 3 pairs of knitting needles, and I'm splitting up a lot of the acrylic yarns that I know that I will never use, many of which have been inherited down our family, so I felt like that was really appropriate, and sending those to them as well. And I wanted to put a little something in there so it didn't seem like I was just giving them my leftovers, and I decided to make my first ever project bags. So they're double-sided, and I took some video in the process of knitting them, so I will show you the finished projects now. But I also took a little bit of a tutorial, so I haven't decided if I'll post that as another video or as part of this one, but it'll probably be another video. But after I was doing that, I was packing up the packages to send them off, and I didn't want to just, send a package to my 2 cousins, or my 3 cousins, and not include their parents. So I had a lot of scrap fabric, and I decided to do a Quilt As You Go set for some coasters. So basically the way that this works is I just took some scraps. Oh my gosh, the lighting is terrible. I'll see if I can fix that after this segment. I took some scraps, and so in this case I basically, like, you lay down, you have a backing, okay, and you have batting for a quilt, and you lay down a piece in the middle and you quilt across it, which is with raw ends. And then you take, so this is the one that's been quilted. So then you take another piece of fabric and you put it right side down, like on top of it. You seam the edge, and then you fold it over. So now it's seamed onto the batting and the backing, and you quilt that, and then you just take another one and do the same thing. So I made a huge thing of those, and then I just cut them into 4x4 squares. So I have a whole bunch of these, and they're all scraps, and they've got, like, other little designs on the back. Some of them are plain. And I'm just going to take bias tape and seam it around the edges and call these like coasters or mug rugs, and send them off to everybody in my family except for the 3 cousins that are getting project bags and knitting needles. So those are in progress. I've finished a couple, but I'm hoping, I was going to finish them today, but I don't have good lighting in my sewing room, which is incidentally this room, and I started messing up when I was trying to seam them because I couldn't see what I was doing. So I might not be able to do it today because the lighting is really fading. But yeah, I have about, 25 of those maybe. So those are going to get sent off, and I feel good about that because I'm using scraps. And the last other craft that I made, I am actually wearing. And it's a necklace. Let's see. It's just, I didn't make the chain, I had the chain. It's just a gold safety pin with 3 little beads on it. And I bought the safety pin on Amazon. I bought a set of about 500 of them for just a couple of bucks. And I already had the beads in my stash. And I'm going to talk more about the safety pin and what it means in my Prattle segment. Just as a heads up, the Prattle segment is going to be a tiny bit political today. So if you're not interested in that, you don't have to stay for it, as always. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. It's simple and I think it's pretty. And it's my colors. So yeah, on that note, that is all of the crafting news that I have for today. After this point, we're going to move on to mail call and knit-alongs and then finally Prattle. I don't have anything about books today or anything else. And I'm going to try and fix the lighting situation. I'll see you in a moment. Alright, I can't really tell if that helped. It's definitely not natural light, but it might be a little bit brighter. I'm hopeful. It is bright enough that it's making me a little bit blind. So, here we go. The next section is mail call, and I have been trying, as you know, to make an effort to not just like list off all the things that I've bought here. So I've been sort of collecting and listing as I go all the different things that I've gotten, and I'm doing them topically. So today I'm going to talk about my mini skeins. I have quite a few mini skeins at this point, and right now most of them are living in this basket that I made. Let me see. It is The Complete Works of Shakespeare. And it's a book that was one of my mom's books in college. She and I both did a focus on Shakespeare at some point in our college courses. It's got this like reprint of like an old painting. And I have my minis sitting in it. This is something that I made when I was in high school. I cut the pages out of the book and I lined it with fabric. And I didn't even really seam it, I just kind of used a glue gun. But I turned it into like a bag. I have paper clips on the side right now to keep it sort of shaped enough that it can sit up on its own like a basket. But I used to use this as a purse in high school and I don't anymore. It's not practical at this point. I have this on here just to tie it closed, although I might cut that off. But I just have most of my minis sitting in this, and that way I figured, you know, it's cute, and it can use the thing that I made a long time ago that I don't ever use anymore. So in there are all my old minis, and I wanted to call your attention to a couple other sets of minis that I've gotten. So first of all, I did a mini skein swap with some friends of mine, and I got a good handful of minis. I'm not going to show you all of them, but there we go. From Cordeliane on Ravelry. And those were great. We did a swap on those. And I also got Jessamine from the Knitted Towel podcast, who's wonderful. You should go check her out, by the way. She made a comment a couple of podcasts ago about how she doesn't knit with a complete mini, and neither do I. She says she uses, 2 to 3 grams in each square, and then she has these like little tidbits left over that she can't trade with anybody because they're small. And she wanted to know if anybody would like them. And I said, well, that's perfect, because I also use about 3 grams. So she sent me a bunch of like little tiny balls. So thank you, Jessamine. You're wonderful, by the way. This again is not all of them, but there we go. I was keeping those separate, so I'm just going to dump them in that basket now. So then, on that same swap that I did with Cordeliane, we had it set up so that you would do a swap of 10 minis. And each mini would be 5 grams, 5 to 6 grams, and then you would have a secret partner that you would send to and they'd send to somebody else. But if you had 40 minis you wanted to get rid of, you could sign up to do 4 swaps. And one of the advantages of that is, like in my case, I had enough yarn to do 3 swaps, but they weren't all unique. So I got to send them to 3 different people, and then I got yarn back from 3 different people. Well, 2 of my swaps came from my friend Ayla, or Isla. I think she pronounces it Isla, but I've always heard it in my head as Ayla. And so she sent me a bunch of minis. This is one of the swaps. Wow, the colors are terrible. And this is another one. And these are mostly variegated and striping, which is really great because a lot of the minis that I've had up until this moment have been solids. So at some point, I'm just going to go through all of my minis and separate the solids and the sort of multicolors. And I think I'm going to put them in different baskets, which means I have to come up with some other cute basket. I'm sure I can find one that I'll use for the other one because, as you can see, I kept all of these separate so that I could keep them and show them to you guys. But if I try and put them all in the basket, they fit, but barely. So that's going to sit there for now. Ooh, it's going to tilt over because it's too heavy. And there's one more thing that I have to show you, and I didn't realize how rare of a steal this was until everybody else started freaking out about it when they got theirs. I have an Opal Mini Skein Advent Calendar. So I've had this since the end of October. And I saw that somebody else mentioned on their podcast that they had gotten one the previous year. I don't remember her name. I'm so sorry. She hasn't posted in a while, but the Lazy Knitter. I'll put it in the down bar. And I was like, oh, I must have that. So I looked and I looked and I looked. And as soon as I saw them come out on pre-order on October 1st, I got one. And it came in like maybe October 28th or something. I'm so happy about it. I'm so happy about it. But I'm going to need more room for minis. So I don't think I'm going to get a whole bunch of work done on my blanket before Christmas because I have a lot of Christmas gifts to work on and some things that I want to do for myself as well. Like I definitely need a new pair of mittens and I refuse to buy them because I can make them and I can make them better. But hopefully when I get back, I'll get some real good work on the mini skein blanket, and I do enjoy just like watching it grow. I will get enough done before I leave to have at least 2 tutorials go up over the holidays. But probably not much more than that. So on to knit-alongs. For knit-along news today, of course, I have the Podcaster Festive Sock Swap going on, which I already talked about when I showed you guys those socks. Now, I also have the Glasgow Subway Knit-Along, hosted by Eva Christie of the Eva Christie Hand Knitting Podcast, and this is where you knit or crochet or whatever in meterage all your way around the Glasgow subway system. So, last time that I talked to you, I was at 5,828 meters, and I had just gone over into St. George's Cross. I had counted the Plum Frost sweater up to where I joined it. I hadn't counted any of the yoke. And I still haven't. I'm just going to wait until it's done and count the rest of it all at once. So since then, I have added my test knit and a bunch of squares. I also added my first Grandfather Dutchman sock. All of my in-progress socks have not been counted yet. So that puts me at 6,204 meters, which puts me 311 meters away from Calcadans. So I'm pretty happy with that. The next one is my 50 points system. And I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys, I've given up on this for the rest of the year. I think I'm just going to start again in 2017. Or maybe keep going with the same system. I don't know. But, so I have, last time I talked to you, I was at negative 76 because I had purchased the yarn at my friend's opening of the Black Squirrel. So since then I finished my test knit, which brought me to negative 71, and then I bought more yarn at the Black Squirrel, which brought me to negative 76 again. And then I finished 4 squares, which brought me to negative 72. So yeah, I'm not sure how I'm doing on that one. In terms of Christmas knitting, I'm doing a little bit better since I decided to sew the coasters instead of knitting something. I was able to do those a lot faster, and I think that I will be able to make it. I am a little bit concerned because I still need to make mittens. Like, I need to make mittens. I need mittens. I will not do well with Raynaud's disease in Boston in December and January when it's 10 to 20 degrees outside Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is Celsius. Below 0 Celsius. Without mittens. So I need mittens. And hopefully I will get those done before we go. I'm planning to do some colorwork mittens that I already have the yarn for. Sorry, that was a terrible noise. So I would like to get those done before we go because I'd want to get them blocked. But whatever happens, happens. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly is that I did start a bullet journal. I'm not sure if I like it yet. We'll have to wait and see. But I do have that, and we'll see how it goes. So on that note, that is all of the knitting material for today. As I've said in the past, I am starting very topical prattle segments. So today's topic is going to be it'll be slightly political, but not overly political, I don't think. If you are concerned about that, or if you just were here for the knitting stuff, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fabulous, fabulous day, and I will see you all on the other side. And anybody that's still here, I'm going to move straight on to Prattle. So, the elephant in the room is that I live in the United States, and the election happened. And no one was expecting it. Very few people were expecting it to turn out the way that it did. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I thought she was not super great at being on the campaign trail, but that she would have been a very good president. And I am really quite dismayed that Donald Trump won. If you voted for Donald Trump, please understand that I don't think less of you. I understand that there are people who voted for him for reasons other than being racist and sexist. But no matter what you voted, why you voted for him, there are many people who, I guess I'm just going to say are Trump followers, because he's almost religious in that sense, who in the days after the election used the election as an excuse to commit a lot of horribly racist and sexist hate crimes. And there was a movement that started, and it was based on something that happened in the UK after the Brexit vote, of wearing a safety pin. And the way that I heard about it was a man was at a gas station and went over to a woman who was pumping gas into her car and was of Chinese descent, and started yelling racial slurs at her and telling her to get out of the country, and attempting to assault her. And another woman was at the same gas station and went over and got between the two of them and sort of protected the woman, you know, just kind of gave her a hug and waited until the guy left to make sure she was safe. And that started a conversation about how the woman of Chinese ancestry didn't know if the other woman that was coming over was going to help her or join with the other guy. And so we're wearing safety pins to show that we are not people who are going to assault or dehumanize someone based on their gender or race or religion or anything like that. As a teacher, this is especially painful for me because many of my students are not white Christians and have been harassed in the time since the election. And so it's very important to me that I give out the message that if you are scared, if something is going wrong, I am a safe person to talk to, because a lot of my students don't get that. And so with that in mind, I got a lot of safety pins on Amazon. I made this necklace, as I mentioned before. And I also plan on just, wearing some. But I also today, I stopped at Joann's to get buttons for my Plum Frost cardigan. And I got a bunch of beads. You can't see any of these colors. I'm not even going to bother. But I'm going to make just a little bit of jewelry. Maybe some bracelets or more necklaces. And I could just wear it, but I want it to become an automatic part of my wardrobe, and I know that I'm more likely to remember to pick it up if I work on making it. I want to reiterate again that I don't want this to be a place where anyone feels judged, including if you voted in a way contrary to what I would have liked. I understand there are people, like I said, who voted that way not with bigoted intent. This is not a matter of opinion. This is just a fact that this is happening, that people are getting harassed and assaulted. And so regardless of why you voted the way that you voted, for me, as someone who does not consider it okay to see someone as lesser because of their race, religion, or gender identity, I feel it is every person's duty in this country right now to look out for the rights of those people who are being harassed. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to do my small part. And it's one of the only things that I really can do, where I live. So, yeah. On that note, I'm also ending on another downer this week, but I'm actually really excited about these. The beads that I got are gorgeous, and they're really simple, but I'm looking forward to making something out of them. So, yeah, thank you for joining. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm so sorry about the light. This might just have to be how it is for the winter because I don't have a place really with better light. I might be able to, I don't know, I'll figure something out. But, yeah, on that note, you're all amazing. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you later. Bye!